What's up, everyone? Alex Boylan here, co-founder of Dream Jobbing. Super excited to have our guest to do 5 questions with the legend, Dunn. He's had a very storied career in entertainment. He has written for everyone from Talk Soup to Playboy Magazine, GQ, LA Times, 4-time author of different books. So thank you for spending and there's a lot in between there, Dan, that I'm not even touching on.
There is so much, really. I tell people, if Howard Stern is the king of all media, I am the court jester of all media. I have had some hilarious failures in almost every endeavor in the media, from radio to TV to magazine.
And I think it's almost impossible to make it in this business without a lot of failures, and this is exactly what we'll get into as we talk about how you got to where you are in your career. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, so above all else, you write. Would you say that's probably your primary focus as a writer?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. How did you get into writing? And where did that passion stem from? And when did you know you wanted to be a writer?
I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and so I used to complain and bitch a lot, and then I just started writing it down. And that's kind of really...
Is this like dead serious when you were young?
It really is how it happened for me, and maybe you hear this a lot from comedians, is that things weren't great when I was a kid, so I would write these fantasy books. I had notebooks and notebooks just filled with, and it was always I was the hero, and I'd escape to some crazy land and save the day. And so that was really where it came from. Writing for me was a means of escape from my life. And then it just kept going. I got to high school, and I was the editor of the high school yearbook, which chicks take that. Which, as you can imagine,
and a lot of girls like Dan. So.
Yeah, which you can imagine was I was quite the lady magnet then, editor of the yearbook. And then I went to college at Temple University in Philadelphia, and I was a columnist there in Philly, writing humorous columns for the Temple News. And then when I got out, I got my first job out of college was at a legal newspaper, and it was the one and only job that I've ever had, where you had to wear a suit and go in at regular hours and things like that. So that job taught me what I didn't want to do. And I went in there, and don't get me wrong, it was a good practice. I was doing some copy editing, and I was writing little things. And then really where the spark came was at the paper, one of the perks they had, and this is a long time ago, but one of the perks they had was they would let employees go out to dinner, and they pay for it in exchange for you writing a restaurant review. Okay. And I'm 22 years old at the time.
It sounds like a dream job.
The most unsophisticated. I know nothing about culinary. I can't even say it now. That's how much I even still don't know it. I didn't know anything about food. I didn't know anything about drinking. I was not a sophisticated human being. But I went to dinner, and I took a date with me, and then I had to write about it. And what I could do was be funny. And so I wrote this review. I'm assuming all of these lawyers in Philadelphia were laughing at me as opposed to with me, but my editor liked them, and he said, you should do another one of these. So I started becoming sort of the go-to guy for these restaurant reviews for the Legal Intelligencer, which was the oldest legal newspaper in the United States, right? Like 200 years old. Very prestigious publication. And then, so that, I guess, lit the spark, and then I started thinking I'm gonna go write a novel. And I had an ex-girlfriend that lived in Miami, and I moved to Miami, and I left Philadelphia. And it was a big deal because I grew up in a neighborhood where no one leaves where I'm from. You're from Boston.
Yeah, I think it's common, right?
Yeah, it's very blue collar, but it was a big deal, especially back then. Like, this is pre-internet. So people you couldn't go on your computer and go, I want to go here. You didn't know. It was, to leave was quite an adventure.
Right.
And so I went to Miami to live with an ex-girlfriend. I was going to write she was a nurse. I was going to write the next great American novel. And I lasted there a whole 19 days. And we figured out the relationship was not going to work. So I wasn't going to go back to Philly. So I ended up driving to Colorado. I had an old family friend that lived in Colorado Springs. And so I was there for a couple of weeks, and I'm pecking away on my computer, and I'm living with 2 80-year-olds. No joke, they were 80 years old. And I had some cousins that didn't really know that well growing up, but they lived in Aspen. Now, I never heard of Aspen. I grew up poor. No one I knew had ever been to Aspen.
All right.
But I went over there. And when I got to Aspen, it was like whoa, like this is like
awesome.
discovering a room in your house that you never knew existed.
Right.
You're like, where did this come from? And so, and then I ended up staying there. And I got all these jobs, and I guess if there's the first bit of advice I would impart is just do whatever it takes, right? So I was working on the mountain and working in bars and delivering pizzas for Domino's and doing all this, and you never know where your break's gonna come from. So I guess if there was a break for me, it was this. My cousin's girlfriend at the time, now his wife, was looking through the only box of stuff. Can I say stuff? I can't say curse words.
Yeah, I mean, some people do. It's all right.
Shit. I brought a box of shit with me. And she was looking through it, and in that box was a manila envelope that I'd kept some clippings from my column in college. And she was reading it, and she said, this is really good. Do you mind if I give them to my editor at the Aspen Daily News? She did, and she said, he wants to meet you. So I went in there, and I met him, a guy named Curtis Robinson, and he said, I like your writing. I could give you a column 1 day a week for no money, right? And I couldn't have been happier. I was like, what? You put me in the newspaper for no money? I'll do it. Drive a hard bargain. So that happened, and I started writing this column called Twisted. And it was just a humor, observational stuff. And as far as I knew, it was me and my cousins and whoever I happened to be dating at the time was reading the column, and that was it. And then one day I went to the bank to cash one of the checks. It could have been from working at the bar or on the mountain, where the hell it was. And the teller said, she said, are you Dan Dunn from the newspaper? And I said, yeah. And she says, wow. And turns to the girl next to her and says, this is that guy, it's really funny. And they was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. And that was really the moment when I went,
I'm gonna do this
the
for
light
the rest of
bulb.
my life.
I was like, I need this. I want this thing, this connection right there. And I went back, called my mom, and I said, Mom, this girl that I don't even know said she likes my column. And my mom was like, that's great. When are you going to get a real job? And so that was the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then Aspen quickly, I went from that to I started making money there, and I met up with Hunter S. Thompson, the author, Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hell's Angels, and we struck up a friendship, and he sort of took me under his wing, and that's where
that took off.
And then
I think it's so interesting, especially on the fact that you worked for free, and I hear this a lot when we do 5 questions with people where they started, and people now that they're hiring, they're like, if you're not willing to work for free or you're not willing to give that extra hustle, especially in those early days, it's really hard to get to the next level.
I don't recommend working for free for long, but I would say this: it's if you believe in yourself, and I'm going to be completely frank, believing in yourself isn't necessarily enough. You have to have talent, right? Yeah. But you can also believe you have talent, totally. And then life will teach you later that you don't. So I believed that I had talent, and I believed in myself, and I believed that given the opportunity, and that's what that was. Writing for nothing was an opportunity to get to the point where then I could demand money, which, do you know what I got when they first started paying me?
How much?
$15 a column.
Wow.
So I'm rich!
That's $15 a week, basically, if you're doing one column.
$15 a week. As you can, and again, from right there, I stopped telling people I was editor of the yearbook, and I started telling them I make $15 a week.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So, what's your favorite part of this business, right? And I know you touch on different aspects in your writing, from TV to books to podcast, all that. But what's your favorite part?
I mean, it's all good. When I mentioned that having that real job in the beginning that wasn't for me, and I'm not knocking that, but if there's something that I look on, and I'm not going to lie to you, there's ups and there's downs. Like one year,
we'll get to. Yeah.
One year you're making a TV pilot at Fox, and the next year I'm saying, hey Alex, can I borrow $200 to? Do I still owe you that money, by the way?
Maybe
okay.
One way. Someone's getting $200 out of this.
I guess the best part of it is that I have been able to survive and occasionally thrive, and have a good life, man. I've been all around the world. Writing has taken me everywhere in the world. I've met incredible people, and again, financial uncertainty aside, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And that's it's been. Of course, I came up at a different time, and we can talk about that later, like the realities of being a writer now versus, then. Yeah.
So what is, when we talk about the challenges, what do you not like about this? Or what would you caution or at least give for guidance as like, here, by the way, it's not all roses. You talk about the money part of it, the ups and downs of that. But what are the most challenging parts of being a writer?
Well, today it's because, the internet has changed everything in terms of what it means to be a writer. As everybody that has access to a computer or a phone is a writer, I guess, if they want to be. But so the internet's made it difficult to make money, in some ways as a writer, and I feel like you could say that it's devalued it a bit. There's some people that are extremely popular and make a ton of money that aren't necessarily talented writers. But I would say that the best advice now would be think, vision, try to figure out, where things are going in terms of a career. In terms of writing itself, that's simple. Read. You got to read a lot. Read great writers over and over and over. Just keep reading, absorb.
Did you have someone that you used to read a lot that gave you guidance?
Everybody. The first real books I remember reading were the Tolkien books, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all that when I was a kid. I read that, and that sort of just got me. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then, I started reading Hunter S. Thompson, and I got real into to Kerouac and to Tom Wolfe and Thompson and Ray Bradbury, and those were the guys that Charles Bukowski. Those were the guys that I was attracted to. These were the writer, and I say guys because I did read a lot of male authors when I was a kid, and now as I've evolved, But those are the guys that lit my fire to be a writer. I was attracted to sort of the outlaw sensibilities of writing. Tom Robbins was a big influence on me. Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. But then on the other side, it'd be someone like Douglas Adams, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and all that stuff. And
a lot of influences.
It's amazing. Like it's just
insatiable appetite for reading.
It's all there, man. It's like, and that's the thing about words and great writing is there's no end to it. There's so many books out there.
Yeah. Of all the projects you've worked on, would you prefer writing for script writing for TV, right? You've had some things turned into pilots of televisions.
Yeah.
Do you prefer writing for columns? Do you prefer magazines? Do you blogs? Your books? What's your favorite and why?
The books are great. I don't know that I love writing them. I like being done writing them. Like that part's fun. Going on a book tour when American Wino came out, we went all over the country doing a book tour, and that is great. And then, and you got TV studios and movie studios, trying to option the book and do this. That part's fun. Writing it was, especially that book, because that was a memoir, and it was about some pain that had happened in my life. Mm-hmm. That's not easy to do, and if you do it well, you've got to, just rip it open and throw it all out there, and then. But in terms of on a daily basis, what I like to do, I enjoy doing the podcast stuff. I had Drinky Fun Time was my most recent one, and then I had the show on Sirius XM, and I'm going to do another podcast. It's called History Under the Influence. I think I'm going to do that one. It's an idea.
He always has great titles.
Well, it's an idea that I have in my head. I've been thinking about it, and I'm trying. I just wrapped up doing the Drinky Fun Time podcast, which was a lot of fun, and we drink with celebrities. My co-host Emma and I, and now we finished that, and now I'm kind of thinking of something that I just like a different direction, and something that can play more on my writing, which I also love to do. So it's like I want to script out a show and then sit down, because that's what I said to you earlier about trying to figure out where things are going. You know, if people aren't reading as much, then let me read to them. Basically, you can make these podcasts little mini books.
Totally.
So yeah, I like doing that stuff.
That's awesome. All right, fifth and final question. If you are looking and giving advice to that younger person or to yourself 20 years ago of like, I want to become a writer, I'm in high school, maybe college, recent graduates, what do you think they should do? That
person right there.
Yeah, that person right there.
First off, that shirt you're wearing, awesome. You look good, really. What advice would I give? I would say, whatever you do, don't do it half-assed. A lot of people do things half-assed, and then you'll have a half-assed life. But if you, again, going back to that, if you believe in yourself and you work at it. Two things got to combine. You can believe in yourself. You got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And if you're writing, that means, study the great writers. Figure out, find your voice, and then do it over and over and over and over and over. And know that you're probably 95% of what you do is going to be garbage. But it's that little bit every once in a while. If you work really hard, you get a little diamond that you can use. Yeah.
That is awesome. 5 questions. Dan, thanks for popping over.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys. Dude, that was awesome.
It's good?
I'm cutting this cord.
All
Yeah,
right.
dude, that was fantastic.